But right now, very pleased to have with us on the program the author of the new book, The Mindful Carnivore. Mr. Tovar Cerulli joins us. Mr. Cerulli, how you doing, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for coming on the program tonight.
Glad to be here.
This sounds absolutely, your story just sounds fascinating to me. You have written a book documenting your journey from being a vegan to being a hunter, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So first of all, let's just kind of go back. When did you quit eating meat the first time?
Well, I grew up, like most kids, eating whatever was put in front of me, and did a lot of fishing as a kid. When I was 20, I swore off meat, went vegetarian, and not too long after that, went vegan. So I wasn't touching cheese,
Right. And what was the, if you don't mind me asking, what was the reason?
Yeah, I had been exposed to vegetarian diets through my teenage years, and enjoyed that food fine. And when I was 20, I had an experience when I went fishing, which I'd done for many years. And in the moment of killing this particular fish, I just felt like I didn't need to do that. And so I thought I can eat other things, and I just didn't want to eat anything that had been killed. And then not too long after that, concerned both about animal welfare and the ethics of killing, and also concerned about environmental impacts of large food industry, I decided to just step completely away from all of that.
And how long did that last, Tovar?
That was about 10 years.
Okay, so a decade goes by, and was there like a light bulb that went on? Was it a slow, gradual decision that you made? What happened to get you thinking that maybe veganism was not where you needed to be?
There were some small light bulbs.
Some LED lights.
That's right. One of the moments for me was I read Richard Nelson's great book, Heart and Blood, about deer in America, and realized how deeply involved agriculture was, not only in wiping out wildlife habitat in the first place in many cases, but also, deer getting shot by the thousands so farmers can keep salad greens and pumpkins and wine grapes and avocados and every other thing they grow coming to the grocery store shelves.
Right.
So that didn't actually change my diet, but it opened my eyes to a wider picture, and it softened the edges of my attitudes about what I was eating. The shift in my actual eating was more health-related. I wasn't terribly ill, but my energy was kind of low. My immune system wasn't doing great, and both my doctor and my wife, who was doing some studying in nutrition at the time, thought that maybe adding a little bit of animal protein back into my diet would be a good thing. So that's where I started to make that shift.
Okay. Now, was that? I'm just curious. Was that hard for you?
Because my attitude had softened a bit, eating a little yogurt, which was a radical step,
Right.
that wasn't that hard. Starting to eat.
By the way, eating yogurt is a radical step for me too, but probably in an entirely different
direction.
Exactly.
That's right. But eating chicken and fish was strange. Just the texture of flesh was something I hadn't eaten anything like that in so many years, that it was a little bit weird.
Okay, so again, I mean, it's a pretty big leap from veganism to, as you say, eating yogurt and eating chicken and eating fish. I think it's just as big a step from going and eating meat again to deciding that you actually want to go out and hunt. So how did that happen, Tovar?
When I took up fishing again around that time, started eating chicken again, started eating fish again, I went back to fishing, wanted to be involved in that, both to have some hands-on engagement with the food I was eating, and also to just reconnect to the natural world that I'd loved as a kid, spending that much time out on the water and in the woods. And I started to think about, if I wanted to get more of my own meat and confront that head on, what is it like to really, kill an animal and process it myself, hunting appeared in the back of my mind as this quiet, sort of suspicious little voice that I ignored for a while because, with the exception of one uncle in my family, I really didn't have much connection to any hunting tradition at all.
Right. And so was your uncle, was he sort of your entree into hunting then?
He really was. He lives about 5 hours. I'm up here in Vermont. He's down on Cape Cod. So we're about 5 hours apart, but we struck up a very active email correspondence, some phone calls, some in-person visits. So he was definitely instrumental in mentoring me into it. And to his credit, he was, very forthright about recognizing that it might not be my path in the long run, and that was okay. But as long as I was interested, he was happy to help, and that was a great help.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what when you went out hunting for the first time with your uncle, where did you go and what did you hunt?
So I did a little bit of small game hunting up here by myself in Vermont to start. I managed to get one snowshoe hare, and my main focus, though, after I settled into the idea, it took me a couple of years, was deer hunting. If I wanted to get a serious amount of food, that seemed to be the way to do it. And my uncle is primarily a deer hunter as well. So the first time that we actually hunted together was down in Massachusetts, near where he lives, and we were deer hunting.
Okay. And so, how often do you hunt these days, Tovar?
So I still mainly hunt deer. I may branch out and get into turkey hunting or something else, but partly because of my schedule is just quite busy right now that I don't have a lot of time to branch out right now. So mainly I hunt for deer for what time I can carve out in the relatively short seasons, mainly here in Vermont. So I get out a little bit in bow season. Mostly I hunt rifle season, which is only 2 weeks long here, and a bit during our brief muzzleloader season.
What has the reaction been from friends who perhaps are still vegetarian or vegan? I mean, when you decided to come out as a hunter, to say, not only am I eating meat, but I'm going to take my own game, did you lose any friends?
I didn't. I mean, there are some people who knew me way back when who maybe aren't keen on the idea. Around here, in Vermont, we have an interesting sort of cultural mix. We have a lot of traditional hunting culture still here, and we have a lot of folks who've moved here over the past few decades from elsewhere. So even though there's a little bit of tension over it, there's a certain amount of live and let live acceptance, which I'm grateful for. The phrase that you use, coming out as a hunter, is quite apt. There were some people who were quite shocked to imagine me changing my diet and actually having a deer rifle over my shoulder. And there's been a little discomfort, but generally I've found that people are kind of curious and want to talk about it and want to learn more about why. So it's actually been overall a positive experience.
Well, listen, Tovar, I really appreciate you coming on the program. The book is called The Mindful Carnivore. When did it come out? A couple months ago?
Actually, it just came out February 14th. Amazon and some bookstores had it a couple weeks early, but yeah, it just came out a couple weeks ago.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the program. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope that folks will pick up the book and give it a read.
Hey, I appreciate it.
All right, Tovar, have a great evening, sir.
Hey, you too.